Hey gamers, I'm the thousands of copies of that awful ET game that got buried out in the hot, sticky New Mexico desert. Casey.
I am all the hype the childhood version of you had for that tie-in video game to your favorite show, and I'm also all the disappointment to follow. Jason.
And I'm Final Fantasy XIV, before all the fixes. It's me, Patrick. Welcome to RPGaymer Season 3, Episode 3, a podcast about the worst games you've ever played.
Okay, like Patrick said, today's episode is about the worst games you've ever played, and let me tell you, I have played some bad games in my day.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, I am here for it, and I'm ready to talk about trash. So maybe we should start off with something kind of baseline. What do you think makes a game bad in general? Like, what makes it objectively just a bad game?
So this would be like everyone's probably common definition as close as possible, correct?
Yeah, I think if you said this game is bad, and everyone would be like, "Oh yeah, I agree. That's pretty bad."
Well, I think the biggest thing that really stands out to people is just bad mechanics or tedious mechanics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Well, yeah, I think it's one of those things that across the board, there are a lot of things that gamers can forgive, but I think it's really hard to get past those because a lot of these are things that just break the experience.
Mm.
You know, like a game could have a not great mechanic, but it could really just come down to being annoying. But some games are just completely like, why would I ever play this? My cold open, the other one I was going to do was about Lunar Dragon Song.
Oh, I was reading about that.
I remember
earlier
you saying you
today.
hate that game.
Yeah, I got that game when it came out, and I was like, yes, I love Lunar, another Lunar, and it's not a good game in general. But one of the worst things in that game is the fact that when you run, you lose hit points.
What?
What? Why? Are you like
Yeah.
running on spikes?
I honestly could not tell you, but like that is just such a breaking experience. Like
Did they forget to give you like a stamina bar or something?
I honestly don't know. It came out on the DS, so I mean, like it was
Oh, wow.
definitely a while ago. But why would you ever think that would be
Right.
a good idea? And across the board, this isn't one of those like, well, it's not for everybody mechanics, but it is definitely like terrible. What about you guys? Like, what are some of the big things that are? This is something that makes a game really bad that a lot of people would say.
If it's broken, like if it's just like poorly optimized, things are wrong. Like for example, like Cyberpunk. I mean, I think there are good parts of it, but on the PS4 and the Xbox One, like when it came out, it got really awful reviews. When in comparison, like the PC version got okay to good reviews, but like because it was so broken, it was like a bad experience. I mean, we've all
Like,
seen.
You said like optimization and
Yeah.
bugs and whatnot.
Yeah, like bugs, like a car dropping out of nowhere onto your head, or like your gun morphing into another gun or disappearing, that kind of thing.
It's not a bug; it's a feature.
Right.
Right.
I agree
Well,
though. I think when things are rushed and not optimized for what you're playing on, it just seems like money grubby. Like that's why it's
Mhm.
there, and like I'd rather the game just be good. I think for mine too, and I think it's great they're bringing up like newer and older games too. But I feel like mechanics that just are never fun are the worst ones for me. And some games
absolutely.
like RPGs are all about grinding, which is great.
Right.
It to an extent, but when the combat is just not fun, like it is so annoying to just have to go through it over and over again because that's what the game is. And then to Patrick's point, I'm thinking, why am I here? Like, why am I doing this? What is the point of this game? It's so frustrating. I didn't mean to cut you off, Patrick. You were going to say something.
No, just the same thing. Like, you know, I'm happy that you agree with that too. It just really sucks when you're playing a game and there's just so much wrong with it. And you know, it's hard to talk about objectively what everyone would say because everyone kind of does have their own opinions on what's wrong with games. So let's also talk about that. Like, if just a you thing, aside from what you just said, what is something that you personally feel ruins a game for you?
I can start off here. I feel like I am confident in my own mindset to be like, I can rule out one bad thing about a game and like look past it. Like if it visually looks like shit, like I will be like, okay, but the story's
Sure.
really good. But honestly, it's when like it just falls apart everywhere and you're like, did you get anything like really good here? And that's what kind of ruins it for me. And if I get
So like the outcome, is that what you're saying?
kind of like the
Like,
outcome, but like if I'm looking past the visuals but the gameplay is also kind of boring or the story is written poorly, then I'm like, man, this isn't delivering on any fronts for me, and it just kind of like kills it. So I need to have something that wants to like keep me going. Maybe getting a little flack for this, but I kind of felt this way with Octopath Traveler.
Sure.
I
Okay.
liked it, it was cool, but like visuals were great, but the story was a little slow, and I'm just thinking like, where do I pick up with this? I like the combat, but like it just kept drilling into me, and that led to me just burning out and being like, I don't want to spend the other 30-ish 40 hours. I'd rather jump to something else that could be new and exciting.
I'm gonna piggyback off you there, because I think for me, overly tropey bad stories
Yeah.
are the things that really ruin a game for me that I can't forgive. And I think mechanically, uh, Octopath is good.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
battle
Mhm.
wise, that's an enjoyable game. We actually had some friends over last night and we were playing some board games and we put on the Octopath soundtrack.
I
You know,
love
like
that.
it has a lot of really good things going on for it. But my first run through, I really struggled also with the stories because they were just so boring. Like
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
weren't interesting. They were tropes. Like, of course, the revenge plot's gonna go like this. Of
Mhm.
course, we have this one person who's like a bustling young adventurer. I didn't think that most of them were very exciting, and us also because they didn't really cross. So
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
there's no development in the characters with each other. They just kind of develop on their own.
Mhm.
So for me, like that is one of the biggest things for a game. I wouldn't say that Octopath's a bad game by any means,
Right.
but I can at least like see what you're saying in terms of, you know, this is something that we've seen way too much and it's just not doing anything for me.
Yeah, my point is basically the same. Like I became obsessed with video games because of stories and writing, and if it just lacks in that department, then even if the mechanics are good, I often have a real struggle staying with it.
Mhm.
And I kind of appreciate what Octopath was trying to do with like the different vignettes, but I just don't think it was extremely or really successful at all.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like with RPGs, I mean, that is like the thing you're supposed to do. It's like have a
Right.
good story. It's like why you're there. And so when that doesn't deliver, I just feel like I judge everything else more critically. And it just, yeah, I mean, you're buying for my time. Like I'm an adult. I have jobs and responsibilities, so like I like to sit down and relax. And if that's not fun or it's a grind and that's all it is, yeah, I'm not there for it.
Case in point, what in Donald and for the love of Goofy's good graces is going on in Kingdom Hearts? And like,
Yeah.
you know, Kingdom Hearts, I think, has a really strong start
Yeah.
for 1 and 2. Like, maybe the story isn't the most coherent, but I think it's forgivable because you can kind of see what's going on with that series.
Mhm.
But the third game was so nonsensical that, and I know I've seen a lot of memes about this where people say, if you skip the story, how are you ever going to understand the story? But like, legitimately,
Skip
I
the
started
story.
skipping the story because it just literally did not make any sense. And I read about it afterwards and it just like didn't. I couldn't
Yeah.
tell you how I got from the last 3 hours to the final boss and what was going on. I didn't even care. I just wanted the completion trophy at that point, you
Yeah,
know?
I don't really honestly remember the story. I remember enjoying my time with the game, but like the other day I was sitting and thinking, like I was contemplating restarting the series, but I was like, I really don't remember anything that happened in Kingdom Hearts 3. I vaguely remember like the sort of deserty maze maybe at the end where all the like 13 people are, but that was about it.
Yeah, same. It just not good.
I have an anecdotal story for Kingdom Hearts 3. I have not played it, go figure. But I do have it, and someone locally was selling their like special edition copy like 2 weeks after the game came out for a pretty
Wow.
good price. So I was like, let me meet up. And I did. I made up with him. We're chatting because I just don't want to buy the game and leave. So I'm like, oh, why are you selling it? And he's like, man, I don't know what to tell you, but once you play it, I think you'll know why.
Oh my god, I
That
love
was his
it.
recommendation, and I was like, "Thanks, here's $20." We
You still
laughed.
haven't played it.
I still have not played it. Where if that guy is listening right now, I'm sure you feel at comfort now.
That's wonderful.
Do you, because we've been talking about RPGs a bit here, or at least RPG adjacent, do you think there's a way that RPGs differ from games in other genres?
I don't really think there's. I mean, I feel like RPGs often try to do a lot of different things to varying successes. Maybe a little bit more so than like an action adventure game or something like that. There's just a lot. Sometimes there's more mechanically going on, but I think the things that end up being bad are things that can be found in really any bad game. I don't necessarily think it's super RPG specific. If I had to point to one thing, kind of back to story, because RPGs are so story heavy, for the ones that are bad in that direction, I think they're especially bad and they stand out a little bit more than like a first person shooter that isn't like a story heavy game.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think you have expectations with a genre. Like I expect a action game like God of War to bring the action, and like it's in my face and it jumps in and I
Bring
think
the
with
action.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Yes.
I think RPGs is story, so it's gonna be tough if you have to be like, yeah, the story's just okay, when like that's supposed to be the thing. That cannot be that great.
I think it kind of differs in the sense what people are willing to forgive.
Oh, sure.
So I think people are like more willing to forgive bad graphics in an RPG,
Yeah,
but I don't think people are willing to forgive bad graphics in non-RPGs.
I kind of agree.
So-
The plebs need their visuals to be great.
Well, and because I think like RPGs have so much going on, like not that action games can't have a deep story, or I mean like or any other kind of game,
Mhm.
but because RPGs do have these like fully complex narratives, and you get to spend a lot more time in the world immersion, I think you kind of like don't sweat it because you know probably a lot more went into it.
Yeah.
And if like, that's why you tend to see like some games that are just stylistically different. So maybe it might be this doesn't look good because it's a preference of mine. I don't like cell shading, which I do, but like it could be
Mhm.
something like that. But if you saw that in an action game, like if graphics were falling apart, you
Yeah,
wouldn't play it. Like it would get reviewed very heavily.
you bring up a good point, and it's making me think like if we're thinking about the history of RPGs specifically, they are. I was gonna say 20 years ago, but now it's like 30 years ago. Back to that era, that is like the golden era, and that's what it looked like. Like that visual style of older games fits RPGs, and I think there's nostalgia there, but also a sense of like kind of pride. Like these are good RPGs. They look like this. That's an RPG. We also have this time now where you do get full 3D RPGs that look great, like Mass Effect, for example, Skyrim. So we kind of have both. But if someone was to make like the next Call of Duty and it was 16-bit Call of Duty, like I'd be game, but no one else is playing that because like the golden era of shooters, if you will, was probably PS2, PS3. So it's around that time. So it just kind of
It wasn't GoldenEye. It wasn't GoldenEye with a Donkey Kong mod.
It wasn't, and that game may appear here on a bad game list on this podcast. Spoilers, so we'll see.
I think one of the things about older games were they were bad if they were too simple or they didn't evolve with the times.
Mm-hmm.
So like newer games, like we were saying, if the graphics aren't good, it's a big problem. But newer games also try to emphasize like flashiness.
Yeah.
And they'll kind of omit that good story or good mechanics to have an overly convoluted system. So I think like you were kind of talking about older games and what we would forgive.
Mm-hmm.
There are some old RPGs where it was like, well, this is just a reduced version of something that I've already played. Like hugely redactive, aka Quest 64. Not a good game. Sorry, I will always stand on that hill of it's just so bad. But like because it wasn't trying really to do anything else. It was just at the core a very base level game. And like you can kind of forgive the graphics and whatnot because it's older, but really didn't push it hard enough. But newer games, we've played a lot of games that are new that just kind of like okay, I get it. Like, these are some very solid graphics, Final Fantasy 13. And it's really cool that I get to see this game look nice and the characters look great, but couldn't tell you what else the hell's going on here.
Oh.
Yeah, I will still set the record straight. I liked Quest 64, but I even have it on my notes here as potentially good games question mark with very bad aspects. And I do think like as we grow older and play more games, we can understand more. But I just wonder if back then, what was that, 1995? I don't know when that came out, 96. Maybe it just wasn't explained that well, like what to do. So like I'm not defending the game and saying it's good, but
Good.
if the mechanics are so poor and you don't know what to do and it's not explained to you, or developers don't know how to make a game like that just yet, like it hurts that game itself. It still makes it bad.
But also it was tedious,
It's
like
tedious,
it wasn't just
yeah.
the fact that it wasn't you like, because there are some games where they don't tell you what to do, but that's a part of the fun of it. Like you and I are playing Outward right now, and the game doesn't really tell you what to do completely like it does quests, but you don't have to really
you
do
can
those.
figure it out, and like
but you can
Quest,
figure out it's not tedious.
in Quest there's just some BS that you're like, wait, why doesn't this hit you? Or like, I have to draw that out of the ground, like what does this mean? Like you don't get it, and it's never understood or like fun, to be honest. So.
I haven't played it, but what I was
you're missing out, dude.
I think the worst thing I've seen about it is that the main character's name is Brian.
Just
It's
Brian.
So for like
random.
for like a fantasy RPG with magic, and you're just Brian.
Here is Brian. I feel like Quest 64 is poised to be in that weird zone of like no one wants it, so it's gonna show up on Nintendo Switch Online for N64 games.
Oh my god,
it's gonna be great. They're gonna announce it, and it's like a new game, and it's gonna be.
And everyone will be like, "Oh, I loved this game back in the day," and it's like, "But did you?"
The visuals were so cool.
We should go bury all the copies in New Mexico along with
with the ET ones. They'll make a documentary in 10 more years.
So Casey, I don't think it was you and me. I don't think it was Jason. I remember we had a conversation a while ago about review scores.
Yeah.
And how a lot of people will rip on a game if it's below an 8.
Right.
Like legitimately will not. Was that us that had this conversation?
I think it might have been. That sounds familiar.
And like
I am a review lover.
To me, it's frustrating, and like I'll get there. I'll give you guys like the platform in the room to talk about this first before I go hard. But how much does a review score impact your guys's like willingness to play a game?
I've like since I was like 10, I've been obsessed with reviews in general, like not just for games, like for movies, for music, for TV.
Because
like,
you were a Game Informer kid too, right?
Yeah, and like I grew up like I remember like when Metacritic became a website, like finding it, and like I'm just obsessed with like delving into different reviews and stuff. And so like I really love reviews, and they do factor a lot into what I buy, to be honest. But I think there are plenty of fun games that are below an 8 and maybe even like a 6 or a 7. Like I know we played Resident Evil 6 and it is not great, but I think there is a funness to it, to the like just mechanically I enjoy shooting things, and I think that's fun.
I'm glad you think so.
but you know, I do think there are games that are definitely below an 8 that succeed in some ways that bring maybe a small amount of satisfaction. Very small.
I think if I put on my like mighty thinking cap for reviews here, I feel like something that people do when they look at a numbered score is they think like it's representative of the entire game, or it's like the person's fun factor they had. It's like, or it's one thing. But if you're, in my opinion, a good reviewer, you are trying to review a game based on multiple aspects that would then go into what the system wants to have a one number score thingy, so they would throw it up there. But if I see a game that's like a 8 or a 7, I'm probably thinking there's probably 1 or 2 aspects that aren't great, or they're not like super good. Like maybe the story is bad, or maybe the reviewer ran into bugs. It doesn't mean the game is bad. It's a 7 or 8. It's actually pretty good. I think when the score gets below I think when the score gets below a 6, then there's concerns, because now the game is essentially failing, if you will. Like something is so bad that you cannot enjoy the game. And people look at numbers and I think they're misjudging it. But that is just personally. Let me get off my soapbox, but that's just
Yeah,
kinda
my
how I feel
turn.
about it. Yeah, you go.
Let us have
So this is, I mean, it just makes me, it just grinds my gears so badly when people won't play a game or say a game is terrible if it is around a 6 or a 7. And I think that is so stupid. And I don't, like, I'm with you, I don't know where that comes from, if that's like the American grading system in schools where it's like you have to have an 80% or above to like have a B, and like that's what matters. But there were some games that came out back in the day, like Wild Arms 3 is one of my favorite games. Like it's really good. I know it's not for everyone, and I think that's kind of what you said, Jason, where sometimes that is what impacts the score, is the not for everyone score. But is that something that really merits a lower score? Also, we're seeing some games that come out, and I will not mention the specific review group names, but they will say some awful things about a game, and then they will turn around and give it a 9 out of 10. And there are some games that have come out this week
that's what you're talking about.
and like we see like this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, but it's like 8.5, and it just like, why, guys? Like, why are you doing this? There's another YouTuber that I follow, and like I like his reviews for what he says, but I don't like how he does his breakdown of the reviews, where he does a 100-point system, and every aspect is 20 points. So like the content itself is 20 points, but then what is it? Value is 20 points and controls are 20 points. So if a game doesn't have the greatest controls, or if it is a full priced game but the person subjectively doesn't feel like you're getting what it's worth, that reduces the score of the game, and I don't think that's fair, because like that really drags the score down.
What if I didn't pay for the game? Do you just add 20 points to it because like I didn't pay anything?
Exactly. So, and I mean, like, I know everyone's gonna have their opinions, and that's what a review is. It's someone's opinion, of course, but like I just think it's silly. That's why one of the people the groups I respect the most is Easy Allies. I feel like they are very objective as much as possible for a game. I know they changed their review score a little bit, but they try to keep it not too many deviations in how they score. So it's either like out of 5 or out of 10. I don't remember where they are right now, but like it's either always been like 5 stars or 10, and it makes it kind of clear like where it lands. And they'll be like, this is a great game for most people, and this and this, but this is what holds it back 7 out of 10. Like, definitely you should play this game. I just think that's fair.
I think that's also worth noting, just kind of in terms of review culture, that the reviews are I mean, I feel like this is kind of obvious, but like it's one person and their opinion. It doesn't necessarily, like, if someone else had reviewed X game for X outlet, it might have gotten a drastically different score. Like if I had to review a sports game, it probably would not get a very high score. So like, it's dependent on, I think, the person. And I think so many people think that singular person's opinion becomes the entire outlet or the entire like company's opinion, but that isn't the case. And it's just people.
Well, plus there's probably some like money going into it too. Like they don't want to lose the opportunity, especially if it's a bigger company, to get these reviews from people.
Sure.
So if they like smash it, even if it's deservingly, they may not get a game in the future.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say to Casey's point, if we could treat our reviews respectfully, and to quote the wonderful Boulet brothers, video games are art, and art is subjective, and I think that's what you should do. Don't deny yourself of a game that sounds fun because it got a 7 from some random dude.
I almost wanted to include that earlier, but
there you go.
I forgot. So thank you for saying that.
High five.
It's one of the reasons why when we do our reviews on YouTube, or if we talk about them on our bonus XP episodes, we don't give it a score. Like we will do like hype it or ripe it, like how does it sound and whatnot, or we'll just talk about it and we'll let you kind of make up your own mind. But we're not going to put like some very subjective number value on it, because that's just not fair.
Yeah, it's just not fair. Like I'm never really gonna recommend Quest 64 to someone, but like I have personally good memories, like playing with my friend from elementary and middle school. Like I like that. But like if I was to say to someone like Casey was like, I never played it, should I play it? I'll be like, definitely not.
No.
But like if you wanted to, here's some things to look out for.
Yeah, you have nostalgia goggles on when you're looking at it.
But
Have
I can
you replayed it
recognize
as
the
an
goggles.
adult?
I did, because I emulated it maybe like 10 years ago, because I'm an older adult, and it was just okay. Like it's never like a terrible thing. It's definitely not a flat out bad game. It's just okay. That's it.
So in general, I have trouble finishing games, but do you guys actually try to finish the games that you play that are objectively or subjectively bad? And if yes, why do you keep subjecting yourself to the badness?
When I got it, when I was younger, I would play through a bad game to give it a chance, because I think some games, especially RPGs, don't pick up in the first 5 hours or so. Especially like if you think of Final Fantasy V, until you unlock the job classes, all you could do is attack and use item.
Sure.
And a lot of RPGs are like that. Like Paper Mario is kind of bland when you first play it, because Mario can just jump or hit a hammer. He doesn't have any special moves yet. So you have to. And I feel like as an older gamer, we didn't have those huge like in-depth reviews. We just kind of accepted things what they were. So there are some games where maybe not everyone likes it, but they would eventually I would want to see how far I could go and see what it might develop before I decided I'm not going to play this anymore. Now, because I wanted to see if it was a sleeper hit. Now I don't. Like now, if it bombs, I'm gonna stay away from it. Like same thing for like a movie too. Like if I'm like, the Resident Evil movie came out, or there was the Resident Evil movie last year, and you saw it, Casey, and you're like, well, I mean, like if you like Resident Evil, it's fine, but the reviews were just not selling me on it, so I didn't even bother.
I wouldn't. I want my money back, honestly.
Oh, I think it's a well-known fact that I don't finish video games, but I think
generally it doesn't matter if it's bad or not. Jason's just not.
I don't either. I'm in your same boat. I mean, it has to be like a Final Fantasy or a Resident Evil or like a series I love, but
I agree. Some, but the games that I would finish that were bad, largely it's because maybe the game is short, and if it's short, I'm like, let me just get through this trash. But otherwise, it's probably like I was younger and didn't have another option. Like maybe I rented the game and I'm like, well, this is what I got for the weekend. This is what I'm doing.
Right.
And,
yes. Very much that too.
Yeah. And I just liked games, so I would try it. There's an old Super Nintendo like Captain America game that was hot garbage. And I was like, why am I playing this? But at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm going to beat it. So I think it's that. And I really think nowadays, though, kind of to reiterate the point, like people are competing for my time, my like away time from work. And if it's not fun, and my money, if it's not fun, like I know I have something else. Like God knows I have so many. But even if those games aren't good, like I have my fallback games, if you will, where I'm like, this is always fun, or my friends will play this with me, or this is a good game to just chill out to before I go to bed. So I have other options to fill than a bad game.
So I don't like Jason. I don't really finish a lot of games just because
I hate you both. Why are you guys on this podcast? No wonder I struggle to find content to talk about.
I tend to buy so many, and then that's like what I spend my money on are video games, and so I'll buy one and I'll get like 5-10 hours in, and then it's like, oh, the next thing's come out, let's play that. But and because I tend to look at and read reviews, I often don't buy games.
10-2
I love 10-2. But because I do love reviews,
7 out of 10.
I often don't buy games anymore that have scored poorly.
Right.
But I have lately been thankful for demos. Like I was kind of interested in Forspoken before it came out, and then I played the demo and I was like, this is not for me, and it made me sad because I liked the idea of it and it was kind of pretty, and then the reviews came out and they were kind of middling. So
I didn't think the reviews for that game were actually fair, and I think that's one of the ones where I really liked what Easy Allies said, where yes, the game is kind of like a little bland at first,
Sure.
but once you
Mm.
get all of your combat options, like this game is really good. And people really just like ripped it for what they saw at the beginning.
That's
And
fair.
then they just paid attention to the reviews too. Like,
Yeah,
It
they
got a
didn't form
lot
their
of
own
hate.
opinion. Mm.
right. Like I just kind of some of the media sources I just feel like people follow a little too heavily, and maybe they only follow the one, they don't look at a few of them to see what they're
Sure.
saying, because it's really
I
interesting
think
when
that's
you go to
true.
you go to someone and then you hear they're not great, and then you go to someone else and they say they're good. Like Easy Allies and Gameranks are the two where I usually heavily base whether I'm going to play a game or not, because I feel like they're very fair in what they say.
Hmm.
And I really trust like Jake Baldino's thoughts and Ben Moore and a lot of the Easy Allies people, because like they're gonna give it to you straight. Like, this is what's bad, but like here are some good things that might still interest you to make it worthwhile still. And I feel
Yeah, I
like that's
love
what
that.
they said about Forspoken. Like you're probably not going to have a good time in the first few hours, but like if you really get through, like there are some really great things. Or people complaining about how the character is constantly talking to herself, well, they're even saying in the reviews you can turn that off, which
Right.
really just
And
saves all these.
that doesn't bother me too much. I kind of enjoyed it, to be honest, when I played the demo. And I didn't think the demo was bad. I just realized, okay, this isn't, I don't think this game is for me. But if it becomes like a PlayStation Plus or like a free game, or it gets like $20, I might pick it up, because I'm
Sure.
interested in that level, but I'm not interested at $70.
See, so
Yeah,
if you had like a review that had, value based in it, that it would be better for you, because then you
Yeah,
would know.
exactly.
Before we get away from this too, I did also want to mention, we kind of danced around the idea of like how long it takes before a game, quote, gets good. And like that is fine. Like you have to learn mechanics, and like not everyone is a fantastic developer to make a game great from the moment it starts. But like, hot damn, if that intro takes like more than 10 to 12 hours to get good, I am probably out, and I don't know if I really want to do that. Like that is a big gaming turnoff for me. It's just not a fun thing to commit that much time to get nothing out of it.
Well, so like people say that Final Fantasy 13 gets good when it opens up,
In like
but it
30
doesn't
hours in.
literally doesn't open up until like 4/5 of the way through the
Yeah.
game. So I'm with you there. But I mean, like there
Yeah.
are some games that will constantly add mechanics to shake things up.
Right.
And that is something I do think is important, because some RPGs, if I ever stop playing them, it's just because they got so stale. Like Bravely Default 2, it's not a bad game, but because the overall core, like what you see is what you saw in the first 10 hours, and just getting a new class or two, it didn't really interest me as much anymore. So like I
There's a
might
lot
be
of
more
the
likely to
same.
quit. But yeah, but
Mm.
like I think it's okay to wait and see, like, oh, I know new mechanics are coming, or I have these resources that I haven't been able to use yet. Maybe there'll be some kind of like game crafting system or something. I think it's okay to wait and keep playing.
Yeah, I kind of agree. And this is like getting off topic a little bit, but when you play like retro games and you haven't played them ever, and it's 20 years later, like there's this weird, let's call it a bell curve, where the game just like, this really sucks. Then eventually, like as time passes, you're like, it's kind of endearing for like how bad it is. And like you just don't get it with current games. So like if we were to look back at Bravely Default 2, like maybe in 5-10 years, like it might be like, okay, like it wasn't bad for what it was, because you got the nostalgia goggles on now. But like it's just a little bit more harsh in today's landscape for newer games. Like they don't get that
especially
benefit.
based on length, like
Yeah,
because that is easily a 50-hour game, and for it to be like so samey throughout the entire game, that's a hard sell for
Right.
50 hours. And like it's a game, like it's, if you haven't played anything like that and you pick it up, you might have a really good time. Or if you're coming in later on in the Square Enix timeline and this is your first game that kind of harkens back to the older Final Fantasies, again, it might be a great time. But for some of us who've been there, done that 1,000 times over, I need something new. And I talked to someone yesterday about Octopath 2 and why I might not get it. And I kept on asking, because he was playing the demo, like what's different? Because we just talked about, there were some things that I really liked and some things I didn't like. And if it's not different enough, I'm not going to play it.
Right.
Did you say you have played the demo for
I have not, but the friend I was talking
Okay.
to had played it.
Yeah, I also literally just downloaded it last night, so I've not played it yet, but it's on the Switch.
Okay, we haven't talked too much about specific games yet, so let's kind of get in more of our specific game discussion a little bit. I want to start with this, because this is one of those things. I mean, like Jason and I will go back and forth all the time about on games. Were there any games that you felt got a bad score and they did not deserve it, or vice versa? Were there games that had a great score and you're like, this does not make sense to me? We don't have to spend too much time talking about it because we still got a lot of stuff to talk about. But I want to know, what are some of these games?
I have a kind of controversial one. So it's
Yeah,
a game.
I have one too. So
Don't worry.
It had good reviews, and I love it personally. But since I've kind of become like more in like the gaming sphere, as like working in the gaming industry, I've noticed a lot of people had issues with this game, and I never knew that until like the last year. But BioShock Infinite. I loved it. It's maybe my favorite of the three, but there's just been a lot of discussion around it being such a big departure and things being a lot less successful that they're doing that was in previous games, and it being less memorable, and a lot of the darkness that was in the original two not being present.
I'm with you on that too.
I agree with that, but there's just been I've just seen a lot of discussion in the last year or so about how it just hasn't held up well. And while I don't agree, I just thought that was really interesting because, like I said, it's personally one of my favorite games of all time.
I think it went less survival horror and more action, like Call of Duty-ish.
Yeah.
And I think that was the biggest mistake for me. And I am certain that was to draw a bigger audience because it's reflecting the games that people were playing at the time.
Yeah,
But
at the time.
like that is what I did not like about the game, and was very hyped up because it wasn't really the greatest in what it was doing.
Yeah,
but like
I
everything
get
else
what you're
revolving
saying.
around the game is good. Like I did not mind that it was a bright environment, you know, and the locale was completely different. I think the story was incredible and pretty easy
And that's
to follow.
why I think I like have such fond memories, and because I'm such like a narrative gaming person, like because I love the story and I love Elizabeth. Like regardless of how you feel about the game, I think it's hard to argue that she is the best part of it. In my opinion, like I think she's just such a good character.
How about you, baby?
I've got a good game I think that is bad, and a bad game that I think is good. I can start with the bad game that I think gets a bad rap that could be, you know, better received. And this
Quest
is
64.
No, it's not. This is a personal hot take. No, we can let that game go. Personal game that I think doesn't get as much recognition as it should is the Clay Fighter series of fighting games. They are not great games in like any way, but they are pretty cool. Like the concept there is great. The visuals are really neat. The gameplay is pretty solid. It is overtly racist, which is terrible in one of them, and I can't get rid of that.
I mean, honestly, that's just a big issue with fighting games in general.
Yeah, in general, and it is an older game if you want to give it some leniency in which you shouldn't. But that game has potential, and I feel like people just kind of pass on it because they're like, it's not Street Fighter. But like it could be. Like if it got love, this could be a really cute series that would never be at like Evo or anything, but it could be really fun. It has cool aspects. And now I'm ready for my hot take of a game that I think isn't as good as people talk about. It's still good, but overhyped is Final Fantasy VII. I think it's
agree with you.
Yeah, I think it's a solid game, but there's just way too much put in. I'm talking about the PS1 version, not the remake. Sure. It just looking back, I'm like, I think that's the worst one on the PS1. There's stuff it does really well, but stuff that other places do better. The story is good, but like if you don't like edginess, like you're not gonna like that story. And so like it's okay. And there's stuff that I look back on and I'm being overly critical, but if I think about it, I'm like, yeah, like Patrick, I think that was you saying, is it? Like, I just don't know. So
I think the game is at its strongest when you're in Midgard and like
only the first 10 hours. Yeah.
Well, and then like it just kind of gets lost and Square Enixy from there. Sure. So I'm like with you, like I don't think it's a bad game. Like it is a good game, but I think people do overhype it.
Yeah,
you know, like it really is one of those games that people give too much kudos for, and I think that there are other games in the series that did it much better.
And I mean, is it influential? Absolutely. Like that's not what I'm saying. But
did
like,
it have great things in it? Absolutely.
Yeah, but like overall total package, like it's not shining in armor anymore. Like it's getting a little tarnished.
It's
wish-
not the one that I would tell people to go back and play. Like if I
Yeah,
was like,
I
go
don't
back
think
and
I
play
would do
Final
that either.
Fantasy, I would say play 9, play 10,
Play 9 or 6 or
12.
10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely
I
agree.
will say it makes me a little sad. You guys can't see me, but I'm currently wearing a Cloud Strife shirt, sitting in front of my Final Fantasy VII poster, and next to me is my Final Fantasy VII art book.
He's not a fanboy at all. He's just
No,
he's
not
just
at
a
all.
gamer.
Not at all. No,
Um,
I think all your points are valid, though. I totally
Mhm.
agree. Especially, Jason, when you said out of the 3 like PS1 Final Fantasy games, you think that that you would recommend that one the last. And like thinking back, like yeah, I think I would too. Like if for someone who's not familiar, I think of the 3, I would rank it the lowest, and that's coming from a Final Fantasy VII fanboy.
That's also coming from me, who really, really doesn't like 8. Like I still might recommend that one over 7. Patrick, what about you?
Okay, I'll start with my deserves more credit first, just because I feel like I'm gonna get canceled for my game. Maybe
Excellent.
we'll see.
Last
But
episode of the show.
this is a game that really just didn't get the credit it deserved. Beyond Good and Evil
Oh yeah,
sure,
okay, cool.
yeah.
is a really good game, and like
It is good.
I just like don't understand why it didn't get
Recognition.
any recognition for what it did. Like I just like a solid narrative, fun gameplay, unique design. You know, you're a journalist, you're not some crazy superhero.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good things that were going on in that game, and I really wish that it had got more attention. But I know it just came out at a really weird time
Yeah,
too.
I was about to say, if that came out like 10 years after, like when Telltale was becoming a thing, like that would have been absolute hit.
Absolutely.
hit.
And then for games that are just overhyped, and like, don't hate me, Jason, but Diablo 3.
Oh,
Oh, it's fine. Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about it a few times before, but like I just don't think the Diablo series is, I feel like it's just kind of like clickbait in a way, or like it's kind of like a gacha game, or like it has a very addictive loop, but I think people are just more addicted to the loop than they are the like
mechanics and
what really goes into the gameplay, you know?
I see that.
Yeah, I don't even think that's a hot take. I think that's
if you'd said that
what
about
it is.
2, I would say maybe that's a hot take. But 3,
well, but here's the thing: like 2, I know 1 came before it, and 1 was like the unpolished version of it, and then 2 was the polished version of it. But like, there's really not much of a difference between 2 and 3, and I think that's why, like, that's kind of my hot take on it. It doesn't really deserve it because it really didn't push the anything far enough. And I know like the narrative is there, but a game like that, you're not playing for the narrative, you know? Like that game is for people who really have short attention spans and just want to kill things. And like to try to sit there and like contrast these deep story, because I know you really like the story, Jason.
I do.
And this like very touch and go gameplay, I just feel like they're really clashing against each other.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think we didn't really talk about this, but in one of my other aspects that could make a good game bad, it's when it transfers from one game in the series to the next, and it's a radical departure. I quoted Zelda 2 for mine on this one.
Right.
But yeah, you lose some of that aspect that the fans of the previous game had expected for the new one. But I do think that Diablo 3 keeps the story. I'm like, that is the logical way it goes, and that's pretty cool. But the gameplay is kind of different. Like, it feels like, ooh, this is not quite as tactical in a sense, if you would ever call Diablo 2 tactical. And like, that was not for everyone. And I mean, the end game of that is like what you do, and literally all it is just make the enemies higher and let's try it again, and then you just keep going. And it could be fun, but it could also not be fun. I see both sides.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break and we'll be right back. And we are back from a break, and now we want to take some time to talk about your specific games that you want to rip. What were the games for you personally that you just felt this was not it? Like you did not have a good time with this one. Bad game.
Go die in a fire.
Yeah, literally burn it, scoop up the ashes, burn it again. let's add a little bit to it too, and we'll
Mm.
try and keep this brief because this episode we're going on like we've been talking for a while.
Yeah.
What made it bad for you?
Mm.
Is there anything that was redeemable? And then what could possibly be done to save it?
I can go first. Want me to jump in on this bad boy?
Yeah,
Do
do
it.
it.
Okay. Patrick loves the Phantasy Star series. Yes,
I do.
And you might have played Phantasy Star Online. Maybe one of those.
I
maybe?
actually didn't. I am
Okay.
more of like the story based Fantasy Star.
Okay,
So
drastically
1 through
different.
4.
But that is what I played. Like I played PSO, Phantasy Star Online, for literally hundreds of hours. So when they announced that they were going to make a sequel called Phantasy Star Universe, I was like on it. Like I am day one. I think $50 at the time. Like I'm buying that on PS2.
Because they were well received, right?
Yeah,
Like,
they're well
people
received.
love those games.
I even thought about buying the network adapter to actually play it online with other friends. Thank God I didn't. Spoilers for what's to come. But man, that game did not deliver, and it was so frustrating. But I think, looking back, if I'm being critical, I think I had too much hype on it from what I played before, thinking it's going to be more of the same. And it vaguely is, but if you're not aware, Phantasy Star Online, it's an action RPG. You can play online with others. You know, level up, grind, get gear, yada yada. In PSU, Phantasy Star Universe, it's the same idea, and then the combat just felt worse. Like it just took a step back. They maybe tried to add more mechanics that made it so you weren't just hitting X over and over again to like combo into stuff. So like you're doing spells and like changing stances, whatever it was, and it just didn't feel good. But then the worst part was the multiplayer just never delivered. Like nothing about it was fun. I never felt like there was any good interaction. There's no point in following the story. It just didn't have anything going for it, whereas the original game felt like it had character and at least something to do with like your space federation you're a part of and why you're exploring. The Phantasy Star Universe just didn't have that. And waiting like literally months and months for this game to come out, going to GameStop, probably being the only person that pre-ordered that game, and then just being like, man, all this time I could have just been playing Phantasy Star Online instead. But yeah, PSU, if you're any fans out there, I'm sorry, and I feel you.
I would have to say for me, so huge Mass Effect fan, love the original trilogy. I feel like you guys played it, right?
I actually haven't played any Mass Effect games.
Ooh,
I
I've played
didn't
all
know
three of
that.
them.
Wow.
Yeah,
You're
well, because I
missing
didn't
out,
have
man.
an
Good
X.
ones.
I know they're not an Xbox
Oh,
anymore.
right,
I know
but
they were
were.
Xbox
Yeah.
exclusive.
No, totally,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Well, Andromeda takes place like 600 years after the end of the trilogy, and
Yeah.
the reviews weren't awful. Like kind of back to our kind of review discussion, I think the average was like a 70 or like 71 or 69 or something.
Mhm.
But it just like for me, because I'm such like a, as I've said, a story person, I just didn't connect with it. I felt like it was too disconnected from the original 3 games. There would occasionally be a reference like in a document you find to another character, and I didn't think it had to be like a 4th game like they are making now, but like it just felt so far apart, and it was like a different game with similar weapons in space for me. And I do think the combat was good. I think that was redeemable for it, and it did look beautiful, and I kind of enjoyed the main character. You get to pick a twin, and then spoiler alert, at the very beginning I think your other twin dies.
Cool.
So that's kind of sad, but and so like the beauty of it and the combat kind of gives me hope for what they're going to do with the next Mass Effect game. But that's what I needed to like make it redeemable and to kind of save it, was for it to have just a better connection to the Mass Effect universe and the first 3 games. And I appreciate the references that they did put in there, but for me it wasn't enough to get past. Like I think I probably got like 15 hours in, and I think I pre-ordered it and probably pre-ordered like the digital deluxe edition, which of course I cannot sell, so I still have it rotting in my PlayStation
It's your
folder
library of shame.
Yeah,
It's
pretty
always
much.
frustrating when that happens, when you buy something digital, you know.
Yeah, now I buy physical. In the last like 6 months I've started doing that so I can sell things if I don't like them.
I feel like you're probably in really good company with folks that were disappointed by Andromeda.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Yeah, most folks didn't like it, but the reviews weren't like I don't think it would ever make a worst games list because
Yeah.
the reviews weren't terrible, but it just wasn't super inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for me, I'm gonna go back to an older game which I only recently played, but I had stayed away from it forever because I heard it had a bad reputation, and it is Beyond the Beyond. It is a PS1 RPG, and it is a very early, if not the one of the first PS1 RPGs. So I mean,
Yeah.
like, you might be like, well, it has that early game feel, so maybe some of it's forgivable, and it's not.
Yeah, it's like, is it?
Like,
Yeah.
like, you know how you came off the high of the Super Nintendo RPGs like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI, Super Mario RPG, and you're like, wow, we got like some really great things going. I'd love to see where like
Where
the
we
next
go from
step
here.
is.
Yeah.
And there's nothing. And even this company, Camelot, made Beyond the Beyond,
Yeah,
and
it's
Camelot
Camelot.
made the Shining Force series, and Shining Force is really good. So you're like, oh, you're gonna make a turn-based Shining Force RPG, like, instead of a tactics RPG. I'm there for it. But the menus are clunky.
Oh no.
The story is very bare bones. Random encounters abound. There are some dungeons where the design is just so terrible you pretty much have to play it with a player's guide in order to
Oh wow.
make it through.
That's-
Yeah, like,
Wow.
because of how high the random encounters are, like, it's just so annoying.
That sucks.
And you, like, this game, if you put it side by side with Golden Sun, you would think that it's the prequel. And like,
Yeah.
Golden Sun is a good RPG. Like, I know we've probably maybe once said, if you really look deep, there's not too much going on. It's long and rambly and whatnot. But like, Golden Sun's a solid RPG, and a lot of people have some really great memories with
Yeah,
it.
it's still enjoyable.
Beyond the Beyond is not that. So like, one thing that was redeemable about it, it did have this really cool system where you had your hit point pool, which was a relatively low pool, and then you had this like life point pool or vitality point pool. I don't remember which one is which, where like if you got knocked out, like if you lost your hit points, you would take hit points from this other pool and it'd be like a multiple of that, and you'd like revive a turn later after getting knocked out. I thought that was kind of cool, and I actually see that in some other games like Pillars of Eternity, where you just have this like other source of hit points to kind of draw from, and then once both of those are gone, you're like officially dead. So there was maybe the one thing was like, that's cool, but honestly, don't suck is what I would say to save it. Like, become Golden Sun, become the beautiful butterfly that you were meant to be much sooner. There's a reason why like Golden Sun is a fresh start and not Beyond the Beyond, 2. Yeah.
I've never heard of it. I looked it up. I kind of like the way it looks, and it does remind me of mind is blanking, the other
Golden
game
Sun?
from the same. Yes, Golden Sun. Thank you. Yeah, it looks charming, but that's sad. I don't think I ever heard of it.
And like, I'm in a funk right now where I want to play really old games, even if, you know, they're not the greatest. And I thought this would be one where I could just like get through and go. I remember texting you guys about how my copy wasn't working.
Yeah.
So I took it and I got it. Yeah, and I got it like scrubbed on the back, and it completely fixed it, which was nice. But then I'm like, oh, maybe it should have just stayed warped. Yeah,
should have just broken it in half.
Also, how dare you say you're in a funk and wanting to play older games? That's very rude. I'm in a funk with this newer game that I played that didn't really do it for me, and had the pleasure of streaming the entire experience with Patrick, and that would be Fallout 76.
Please see our bonus XP.
Please see bonus XP
episode on it.
Just complaining the entire time.
Oh my god. Where to even start? So I feel like with 76, kind of maybe to Casey's point with Final Fantasy 14 before it became A Realm Reborn, like the beginning is just not good in quite literally every aspect, in my opinion. With the updates, it is passable. So I think if you look at 76 with like all the updates now and everything that has happened, it's a much better game. But if you look at the base game,
but it's a marginally better game.
Marginally better, yeah, but it is better. I think everyone would agree it's better. But the beginning is just not good. Like the very start, when it's just vanilla 76 and nothing else is happening there, like Bethesda just made all the worst decisions you could do about a game and like added them to this one to be like, here you go, hope you have fun. And like, it wasn't good.
Multiplayer is the future.
Yeah, is it though? And even then, like, it's not even like full on multiplayer. There's only a few Vault Dwellers that even come out per server. So like, it wasn't good. The combat was fine, but not as good as even Fallout 4's. The mechanics for crafting were okay, but again, just tedious and not that fun. there's really no reason to like eat a lot of food besides to fill meters. Like there's ideas that just aren't fleshed out, and you wish it would be. Like I am a huge Fallout fan since the very first game, and this one is just passable at best. Like it's not a good entry.
It's kind of like what we were talking about for BioShock Infinite, where it was such a departure. Like even 4 was such a departure from the previous games because it became also very more actiony Call of Duty, less RPG, and like the game was rooted in RPG elements. And when you take that away, you know, again, when we have RPGs, we tend to have these stronger narratives. We have some of these systems in play that really make the game unique, and like they started taking all of those things out.
Yeah, they took literally like all of them out for 76, and now again it's like okay what's there, but I would never say it's good, and it just makes me think like, why did this even get made? Like there's no reason to have this game. But yeah, major disappointment for Fallout 76.
Rest in peace, y'all's time streaming it.
Yeah, seriously, never again.
I mean, we blew up some rad stags. That was kind of fun. They flew.
That was fun.
Fun.
The one redeemable quality is the memes that came from that.
Yeah, we can let's just say, I don't know, 45 hours we played that game. It could be condensed down into like that 1 minute clip, and that's the highlight.
Incredible and sad. Speaking of incredible and sad, my other game, when I was talking earlier, I was like, oh, I think I'm going to change it from I'm going to pick Final Fantasy 14, but I want to say an honorable mention to the OG Final Fantasy 14, but I want to say honorable mention to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I'm not going to get into it. We all know the issues, but it's not good. And I was thinking, I haven't finished it. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to. I don't want to go back into it.
Fair.
See, that is one of those things where I don't think it is as bad, but we can talk about that another time.
So Final Fantasy 14, I remember like sitting. I don't remember if the beta did come out on. I think I played it on my laptop. I was thinking PS3, but I know I got canceled for that, so I'm thinking the beta wasn't there either. But I remember like sitting. Our internet speed wasn't super great. It would have been good enough to run it, but I remember sitting there like anticipating it downloading and just watching my monitor. And then it finally downloaded, and it just was not good. It was, I mean, we all know now, like Final Fantasy 14 has had one of the biggest turnarounds in gaming history.
Yeah, literally it is. I haven't played it since like the Realm Reborn, but it is still known as just one of the best games you could play.
It's still going strong. The community is incredible. Square Enix does a lot like with the community who loves that game, and it's really good. But like it started out and the controls were really bad.
Yeah,
it was really grindy. It was really buggy. It was really broken. Not like Cyberpunk level, but it was not good. And I really appreciated that Square saw that there was potential, especially because I think the biggest redeeming part of it is that it is Final Fantasy. It has that aesthetic, that music that we love, and I think those are truly like good parts of the original game. And so they recognized that there was potential there, and I mean, and that's what they did to save it. I mean, they completely gutted it, took it offline, and they spent time fixing it. And like, I don't think we see that a ton, honestly,
not really
in like the gaming industry. So
no, we see more of a we'll patch it as we go.
Right,
just deal with
we're
it.
just
maybe
patching it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think it's just one of those rare instances where a game like truly got saved, and and like I know we're all like Final Fantasy, but like we've got to give kudos to Square for that, because it was just really, it's really remarkable what they've done and how in the longevity of the game and how good it still is.
Yeah,
there has to be a universe out there where that happened, but for Fallout 76 instead. Aww. And I would like to see that universe.
And then the multiverse.
Yes.
I'll wrap us up here. My more current game, because I feel like that's kind of the trend of what we've been doing here, was Biomutant. Jason, I know Laura platinumed this, and I'd be curious to hear what her take on it was. Actually, it was I gave you my copy, right?
You did, yeah. And actually, when I was, I told Laura, I was like, "Hey, any comments for this episode we're doing on bad video games?" And she's like, "Oh, Biomutant." It's like right away, like most disappointing. So yeah,
I just don't know where to start. And I will say this, the redeemable quality for this game is it truly did and does have a lot of potential. And if they
Yeah.
came out with a Biomutant 2 and they really honed in on some things, it could be a good game because the universe was kind of cool.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
the
the
factions were neat.
critters
Yeah.
were
Mhm.
cool. The factions idea was a like not unique, but it was a good
Right.
like it was a good idea. But there are just so many systems in the game that were not fleshed out well enough. Like I couldn't tell you the purpose of choosing different classes at the beginning of the game because you still virtually play the
You do
same.
everything. Yeah.
And then combat was so bad that when you would hit things, I remember reading this on a review and I actually agree with it, where it felt like you were hitting things with a pool noodle.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. It doesn't have the impact.
Yeah, it really doesn't have the impact. And like Jason and I have been playing some games, like when you hit something, you feel the weight of you hitting it. You
Yeah.
know, you hit something with a hammer, like you feel it. In this game, nothing would stun lock enemies. Like there just was none of those features or that polish or that depth in the mechanics because they spread themselves so thinly. Like there's a magic system, but is there because it's not that great? There's a
Yeah.
class system, but is there because it's not that great? Crafting was very like counterintuitive and very strange. There's so much loot and I couldn't tell you why. This had that same thing with the I thought the narrator was charming, but I do understand how it could be really annoying for a lot of people too. There's just too much, way too much in that game, and it just made it not enjoyable. It was huge letdown for a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree. Also, I remember that game. I just had to check right now to make sure I had the right one, but that game was in development for like 5 years. Like
It was
took
a very
long
time. Yeah, it was
and
a
like
very long time.
that's rough. So maybe there were some troubles in the studio too. I don't know. Okay, that is about wrapping us up for our personal stories here for the games we were most disappointed with. But we would love to hear your most disappointing games too. Let us know your thoughts and those games on our Instagram and Twitter at HeyRPGaymer. And we always like to hear reviews. Get your feedback on how we can improve and what you're liking about the show. We're going to take a quick little break again, and we'll be right back.
And we're back for a middle segment, What You Playin'. As usual, we talk about the games that we are currently having plugged into our systems and playing on our TVs. Jason, what are you playing?
I was like, oh god, what am I going to say here?
Probably what you're playing.
Probably what I'm playing. That's a good start. I've been playing a lot of games on my stream, like personal stream for old PS1 games. It's kind of a project of mine, but I wanted to highlight something that we're thinking about playing because it's the discussion's happening, and we actually might jump into Final Fantasy 14.
Especially after all of us talking about it.
Yeah, you know? It's very fitting, and this is honestly nothing to do with this podcast. It just kind of happened naturally outside of that. But we were looking for a game to play, MMOE maybe, because it was something to maybe pass some time. Mentioning games that had really strong crafting systems, and this one came up quite a lot too. I have previously played 14. I think it was when, is it Mistborn or Mistwalker or whatever that expansion is. I can't think of what it's called. When that one came out, it was the last time we played, so several years ago, and haven't really touched it since. But now it's been brought up in a lot of different friend groups, and I'm thinking like, yeah, maybe it's time to go back. Just downloaded it on the PS5. We just downloaded it on the PC. I think I'm ready to go in. But I don't know, man. Like when you think about RPGs, I'm sorry, when you think about MMORPGs, I'm like, do I really want to do this? And we just discussed in this podcast how it takes like 20 hours for a game to get good, and everyone says 14 is not good until you get like 60 hours in.
Right.
So like,
get like 50.
Yeah, I'm dedicating life to this, so we will see what it's like. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a fun one.
It kind of sucks to think of like playing an MMO and the content itself doesn't get good until you get to late game content because But I mean, if you're playing with people, that is the fun. Like we got through Fallout 76 together because we could do it together. And there were some days where we just didn't want to talk very much because we were just so annoyed with the game, but we still did it. And
Yeah.
in college, like World of Warcraft also was not the most fun game solo, but again, like I had my residents playing with
playing with
me.
friends
We
is
had
fun.
our own guild, so it was cool to do that as a team. So yeah, I think it has that
Totally.
appeal. I think you'll get through.
Cool. What about you?
So when I was in Canada seeing my friend Chris, who I mentioned in this podcast,
Nice.
was just lent the game Kudelka.
Oh wow, there you go.
Yeah, and which I originally played this copy when I was in the 9th grade.
Oh.
So I decided we just mentioned that I want to play some older games and I want to make some more YouTube content. So I'm gonna do a run through of the Shadow Heart series, and you can't start a run through of the Shadow Heart series without starting with Kudelka because it technically is the first in the series.
It's
so
the beyond of the Golden Sun for that series.
But these are actually connected. And will it be a good experience? No, because Kudelka is not the greatest game, but it does have some really cool things. Like it's a survival horror turn-based RPG.
Mhm.
It's very Resident Evil when you're exploring this monastery that you're in, and then it turns into like a combat turn-based combat from there. It's one of those, like, it had a lot of good ideas, but we didn't quite have the polish, and I just want to see what it's like to go back in and play
Sure.
it. I am excited. I think Shadow Hearts itself, like the series, those are really good games and definitely worth the time, but we'll see what it's like going back through Kudelka.
Good luck.
Good luck.
feel for you.
Indeed.
Yeah, thanks.
I have been playing the Dead Space remake, and I love
Hey, there
it
you
so much. Oh yeah, you don't do Xbox, Patrick. I forgot. So you've never played it. It's so good. I don't remember.
Actually, that's not true. They actually had an app version for it on my BlackBerry tablet when I had just graduated from college.
Oh my god.
So I technically
so you played BlackBerry
played
Dead Space.
I played BlackBerry Dead Space.
The worst version.
Mhm.
But it's really good. I don't remember when I think I played the original around the time it came out. I don't think I got it like at release, but probably the next year or two after it came out. And it's so good and it's so scary, and like my back hurts and my shoulders hurt from tensing up.
I was like, why? What are you
like sitting on the couch? I'm playing it
my
in
neck.
car. My back.
My neck, my back. Dead Space gave me a hearty attack.
Yeah, I mean, basically. And I remember for work there was a story that came out from one of the developers saying that like it is like he can't play it with headphones because it's so scary. And I just played it with headphones for the first time. I'm like maybe 8 or 9 hours in, so like for maybe like the 7th through where I am now hours I played with headphones, and it's terrifying because as you get further in the game, you start hearing more voices, and it's just like it's so freaky, and it's
so cool.
Just terrifying. And I feel, Patrick, I think you'll be happy about this. I'm not playing it on easy or story mode. I'm playing it on, I think, medium, so not hard.
You.
But I've definitely died a few times, so it's just
hey,
it's great.
Death in life is not in real life is not good. Death in video games is just a learning experience.
It's
so
growth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, take death the best way that you can.
Yeah, and I feel like it's very similar, or it's a remake in the sense of Resident Evil 2, where it's very faithful in many ways, but there are a few little things that have been changed that to make it fresh, and it's great. If you ever get time, would recommend, though it is extremely gory and disgusting.
Awesome.
As it should be.
And we are back for part 2. As usual, we play a game in this segment of our podcast. This is where we get real fun.
Yay.
Today, so in the past episodes, like in our Legends of Zelda deep dive or Final Fantasy deep dive or any of the other ones, we've done some kind of like a trivia style game. And sometimes we do it where we do a poorly described version of something in the game. but we're talking about bad games. So instead of that, we're going to sell the shit out of these not so great games in order to make them sound a lot more appealing.
I'm
Kind
putting
of
on
like
my marketing hat and getting ready.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that kind of like they called infomercials? Is that what
Yeah,
they are?
yeah.
Yeah. So
We're
this
on
is
a QVC.
yeah, this is like the QVC of video games, of bad games. So the way where it's gonna go is someone is going to read their advertisement or their clue, if you will, about what game they're talking about. And if the other two people don't get it right, then they'll drop a few more clues just to see if they can get it. I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of overlap in this, but we'll see. And yeah, while you're at home, guess along, see if you can figure them out.
Play with us.
Yeah, play with us. Okay, I will actually start us out to get things going if you guys are okay with that.
I'm ready. I got my game hat on.
Yeah,
Yep, same.
So it's just your bald head.
Just my regular hat.
This game is a beaut. Think of it as the self-driving car of RPGs. Not only do you not need to worry about hitting anything beyond the X button in battles, you also don't ever need to worry about getting lost. That's right. This game will keep you on a tight and narrow straight line without any real room for deviation.
I think I might know.
I think I might know too.
Final Fantasy 13?
I'm thinking it's 13.
It is 13.
Yeah,
Okay.
the straight line. I'm like,
that
oh,
was
okay,
a good
that's
sell.
it.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
pretty good.
I had fun
It
writing
is beautiful
these.
though. Yeah, I did too. Mine aren't that long, but that was good. I enjoyed it.
What are the other clues? I want to.
Yeah,
get?
what are
My
your clues?
clues were too many characters named after weather and
Yeah.
the worst of an entire series.
I
Oh
see.
man, really? You think?
I mean,
a mainline series. Yeah, maybe.
yeah,
Oh,
because I
man.
mean, like 14 has the
Yes.
revitalization of it, so I'm not going to hold that against it. They actually took the time to fix that game.
That's fair.
Okay, Jason, why don't you go ahead?
I'm ready for you. Okay. Explore vast open worlds in real 3D. Fight your enemies in real time. No loading screens required. A unique combat system ensures your character fits your playstyle. Never feel like you're doing something useless ever again.
Oh, that sounds very
That's
like
like
it
all,
could
that's
be
all games.
yeah,
Okay.
Like,
any open world game. It
yeah,
could
like
be.
literally any open world game.
Okay. I
think we
can
need a
keep
clue.
going. I have 2 clues before a final clue. Remember that draw system for Final Fantasy VIII? We'll get ready for the next step down.
Oh.
Is it Quest 64?
It is Quest 64.
Okay.
The only game I know of where enemies can be outside a physical range in-game mechanics, but clearly in range visually. Frustrating.
That sounds incredibly frustrating.
And then one of 2, I think, RPGs on the N64.
What's
Yeah.
the other one?
There are a
Eight-
couple. There's Hybrid Heaven. There's
Aiden
Paper
Chronicles,
Mario,
yeah,
and
Paper
there's
Mario,
Aiden
right.
Chronicles.
Paper
Yeah.
Okay.
There's not that many.
Okay.
Cool.
I'm
You
gonna
got it.
In this game, you drag a bright, beautiful yellow crosshair across the screen to slay enemies who you know and love from previous iterations of the series.
Oh, a yellow crosshair?
It's
In
very vague.
previous iterations.
Is it Umbrella Chronicles?
No.
Oh yeah, good guess.
No.
I'm thinking it's like a mobile game. Is it like Final Fantasy Brave Exvius or whatever, something like that? But I don't know.
Do I answer the questions?
Oh,
So no. Now
Okay,
you would
just
do your
making
next
sure.
clue. Yeah, you just do your next clue.
next.
This is a made-up statistic, but like 62% of all protagonists in video games, your hero has amnesia.
God doesn't help, Casey.
I'll give you one more. It was released in 2000 on the PS1. Patrick, you were very close earlier.
Oh, it's Resident Evil Survivor.
Yes.
Oh, Survivor. Oh, nice shot.
I had a feeling when you said that.
Oh yeah, because
like I was thinking it. Yeah. Okay. I
have
was
played
close.
it-
I was
I've
close.
played it's probably the only like quote unquote bad video game I've ever beaten, and I actually liked it, but I was also like 11, so I don't think I would like it now.
I remember Survivor because like I think a pretty iconic scene in most Resident Evil games is when you press start and it's like Resident Evil.
Resident Evil.
It's so cool.
yes.
Do you know what Survivors is like? Maybe Casey does.
Oh, I don't remember.
It's just
I don't remember
it's
either.
just some dude. He's like Resident Evil, Survivor. And he says it like so nicely. I'm like,
it's like if I voice acted.
yeah, it's exactly
Survivor.
Survivor.
Exactly.
All right. Are you hoes ready?
Yes.
Yes. Give it to us.
Tired of seeing the same sights every day? Need to get outside more? Have you ever wondered what it would be like to leave home and build your very own paradise? Well, we've got the perfect bug-free, most certainly plot-driven, completely NPC-laden game for you. We're absolutely not lying, I promise.
I know what it is.
I think I do too.
But I want to hear the other clue, just to make sure I got it right.
Yeah.
Some pre-order bonuses may not arrive as they appear.
It's Fallout 76.
My other clue was pick a number between 1 and 101.
Oh,
Because
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's
oh
good.
my god,
I love that.
I got game.
That
I got game.
bag debacle was so ridiculous. I cannot believe.
Yeah, they just really should stop releasing Fallout swag. But yeah, good job, Fallout 76. You got it.
Ooh, okay.
Ding, ding, ding.
I can go again for the sake of keeping it in order.
Yeah.
Do it.
Fast-paced action, 2.5D visuals, and raucous retro platforming action. Run and gun your way through a series of enemy-laden levels as you dash to take on the boss. Collect power-ups, change into different forms, explore, and most of all, don't miss that jump.
I have no idea. Patrick, do you have any guesses?
I think I know what it is.
I can give some more clues.
Give us a
No,
clue, or
no,
give me a
no, no. I'm gonna guess. Is it Mighty Number 9?
It might be Mighty Number 9. It is Mighty Number 9.
Oh,
You got it right.
yeah, I would never have gotten that. I forgot.
Okay,
that.
Yeah.
the reason I said that is because I also did Mighty Number 9.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
funny.
I'm sorry. I also did 76.
I did too.
Perfect.
do you want me to read mine?
Wait. I got another clue.
Okay, do your clues.
It's good, right? It's worth the wait, right? It's just like what we always wanted from this creator, right? Right? And then my last one is one of the biggest Kickstarter success failures.
Oh my god, that was the exact same clue that
Yeah.
I had for that.
There you
Oh,
go.
I love that.
Mine was, do you like robots? Can't afford the more successful models? Don't worry, we got you. Our gunslinging, gap jumping knockoff
Yeah.
of your favorite Blastmaster is safe on your wallet.
There you go. Oh my god. Oh,
And
talk
then, yeah,
about
one of the most disappointing Kickstarter games, and then a very poor substitute for Jason's favorite series.
It is. Oh my god. I
yeah.
even went to a
Not
panel to
wrong.
see Keiji Inafune, and I'm like, I'm so excited for this game, and then like it came out a month later, and I'm like, I wasted my time.
This is garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Casey.
Okay, Casey.
All right. In this game, you control siblings in a magical world where you can collect various items that allow you to do exactly one singular thing at a time, like move, jump, or attack. Who needs to do all three at once? You are not allowed to do them at the same time. To make the game as accessible as possible, every button except for the joysticks and shoulder buttons do exactly the same thing.
What game is this?
I feel like I
a
should
very
know
bad
what game
one.
This is.
Oh
You
my-
said siblings.
Yeah, twin siblings, and you collect.
I don't think I said twins.
Oh,
If
twins.
I
It's just
did,
a sibling. My bad.
Just siblings.
Oh,
I mean, maybe they are. But
what
I
are you
don't know.
thinking, Patrick?
Oh, it sounds very familiar.
I mean, I'm thinking
Do you want a
RPG. I don't know. Yeah, clue.
Go ahead and give us a clue, Casey.
It comes from the creator of everyone's favorite little fast blue dude.
Oh, so it's Yuji Naka.
Wait, no, it's Sega, right?
Well, yeah, Sega or Sega.
Sonic,
Yeah,
I mean Sonic.
Sonic.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah. Sonic.
And
Go fast.
oh god.
Wait, is it a Sonic?
Is it? Oh wait,
Game?
is it Sonic Chronicles, the Brotherhood? Oh, okay, dang.
No. Last clue. Published by Square Enix.
Oh my gosh.
Did I stump you? It's really bad, and you probably heard of it.
Wait, no, don't tell me.
I'm not gonna tell you. I'll give you a second.
Read the beginning your thing again.
Oh,
you don't have
man.
to voice it.
Okay.
Ham it out. but yeah.
Control siblings in a magical world where you collect various items that allow you to do exactly one singular thing at a time, like move, jump, or attack. You're not allowed to do them at the same time. To make the game as accessible as possible, every button except for the joysticks and shoulder buttons do exactly the same thing.
I got you. I know what it is.
What is it?
Patrick, do you know what it is?
No, I don't. Go ahead.
It's Balan Wonderworld. Or,
Yep.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, I never played it.
yeah,
I
not
haven't
once.
played it
Hearing
either,
it again,
but
I'm like, yep, there it is.
For a very
it's-
big reason.
It's so bad.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I haven't played it, but I've read enough about it. That
Yeah. So speaking of flashy games that have like just poor substance.
yeah,
Exactly.
garbage.
Patrick, last one.
Okay, you guys ready?
I hope you don't copy mine because I have no others prepared.
I don't think so.
Okay, good.
I think we're good on this one. Hey, you! Yeah, you. I heard you're looking for a game that puts the sis in Identity Crisis. Is it an action game? Is it horror? With an all-star lineup like this, who cares?
I can't decide if cis is like sister or like cisgendered.
Yeah,
or
sister.
neither.
It's just sis.
Oh man.
I have an idea, but I'm not really certain.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's okay if you're wrong.
I mean, I'm
It's okay.
thinking it might be a Resident Evil. Is it like 6 or something like that?
It is Resident Evil 6.
There you
Oh,
go.
well,
Yeah.
read your first thing again then, because I should have gotten that.
I heard you're looking for a game that puts the cis in Identity Crisis because the game has like no identity. Is it an
Yeah,
action
that's
game?
very
Is it a
fair.
horror game? With
Oh,
an all-star
yes.
with an all-star lineup like this because it has
Everyone from the
Chris,
game.
it
Yes,
has
everyone, yeah.
Leon, it has all the people. And I said this game single-handedly caused the series to go in another direction, this time for the better, and then no sandwiches in this game.
Oh, I missed that part.
nice.
Okay.
Well,
Oh,
no,
those
I
are the
didn't say
added
those were
ones.
my lyric.
I was like, damn, I would have gotten that. That's funny.
Ugh.
All right, Jason.
That's fine. I never even played
Your
that game. And I
final.
was like, I know
I
that.
was in a coffee house while I was writing that one, and I chuckled and I said, "Sis." And Scott looked up at me. He's like, "What are you doing?"
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for my final one. Okay, I gotta put on a voice for this one. Two epic worlds collide. The dream match everyone wanted is finally here. 2-on-2 tag team fighting. This game is every fan's dream come true. So long as that dream has a few unique game modes. And some of those characters will come a bit later. Oh, and while we're talking about Broken Promises,
Tekken Tag.
it's not Tekken Tag.
Oh, it's
How-
not
I feel
Tekken.
like it's a fighting game.
How very dare you? It is a fighting game. More clues?
Yeah, I would like one, but Patrick, if you want to guess again, go for it.
Give me the next clue.
So many promises of amazing content, only for it to not even be available on launch day.
Oh, what fighting game wasn't available on launch day?
I'm not a fighting game aficionado.
Mhm.
My fighting game career ended at Bloody Roar 2, so I have no
Ugh,
clue.
what a wonderful game.
Jason, did we do a
I'm sorry, what?
did we do a program for this?
No. This actually came out. If you're really good with dates, this game released the exact same day as Mass Effect 3, and it would have been after I graduated. But my last actual clue for you is the advent of on-disc DLC.
Wow. I think you stumped us.
Maybe a
For
stump.
me, at least. Patrick looks stumped.
I'm gonna
Is
look at Patrick on my camera.
read the first clue one more time.
Two epic
you don't have
worlds
to-
collide. The dream match everyone wanted is finally here. 2-on-2 tag team fighting. This game is every fan's dream come true.
It's the 2-on-2
Yeah.
because I would have
2-on-2,
said like
yeah.
it would have been like Marvel versus Capcom, but that's 3-on-3.
You're close though. Are we stumped?
Can you think of any other clues?
You were close with Tekken. What other world collides with Tekken?
Oh, sorry. That's what I was. That not the Tekken Cross Street Fighter? Is that
Yeah, Street Fighter Cross Tekken. That's the one. Yeah,
That's what I.
Oh.
That's what I meant.
Oh, sure, Patrick.
That's-
You didn't mean this
that is what I
entire
meant.
other series of games called Tekken Tag Tournament. But no, you're right. It's Street Fighter Cross Tekken. It was.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yes, it was
Yeah.
supposed to be.
And it was bad?
It's not great, but it had some really bad
no one
modes.
talks about
No
it.
one talks about it. It also had some failed promises for what was to come later, and it did have on-disc DLC. So characters on your disc were available, but you had to pay to unlock them. It was really
Wow.
scummy.
That is
Yeah.
that's no thank you.
Yeah, hard pass.
This weird puzzle game features one of the most popular gaming characters, and its animated cutscenes, which were produced by Russians and probably made in Microsoft Paint, are definitely not sketchy or terrible.
I mean, I'm thinking it's got to be one of the Zelda CDI games.
Maybe. Maybe not.
Yeah, I think
made by Russians,
is due.
outsourced. Yeah. Keep
Do you
going.
wanna-
Keep going.
It came on a disc.
Hey, there you go. Lining up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the Zelda games.
Wait,
but
I
think it is.
I think
You
I
want
know.
your last
I think I know
clue?
them all, but give me the last clue.
Let's go.
Oh, so it's Mario instead?
Oh, is it Mario's Missing?
No, that is one, and it's not good.
Is it
But
Hotel Mario?
Yeah,
Hotel Mario. Oh, what a
Oh.
trash
So
game.
Phillips CDI
Yeah,
game,
yeah.
like the Zelda.
What's Hotel Mario?
I don't. It's really bad.
Uh,
But I wrote a 50 list worst games of all time for one of the outlets I used to write for, and it was near the top.
it's one of those games where it doesn't need to have Mario in it at all, and he's just
No.
in it.
They
Yeah.
just used him because they had permission.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Womp womp.
Yeah. Ba-bum, 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 ba-bum.
Well, I think that went pretty well, guys. I mean, it's fun. Maybe people will want to actually buy these games now.
Please don't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
please-
don't waste
please
your money,
don't.
guys.
We've just saved you all a
Don't.
lot of money.
Yeah, we really did. And that's a wrap on our episode on the worst games you've ever played.
We always want to hear your thoughts too. I want to know what games I should avoid and inevitably just seek out to purchase for my collection. Let us know over on Twitter and Instagram at RPGaymer. And Discord's been hopping lately, so I appreciate everyone following us on Discord, talking about games and memes and animals and pets. If you want to join the conversation, please do. We're always open for it. And special shout out to all of our Patreon subscribers. You help make this show possible, keep things going, and we just love talking to you too. Appreciate all the support.
If you enjoyed listening to us today, be on the lookout for our next episode, Leveling Up, coming up in 2 weeks. We appreciate you all for listening and hope you had a great time. Now go out there and get gaming.